What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Hawkins here with another edition of the TriStar Sports Podcast. I do appreciate anybody and everybody that is joining the show. Please remember to like and subscribe. We are up on the YouTube page. It's my personal YouTube page of Justin Hawkins. Just follow along for every week for updates on all things TriStar Sports, the Tennessee Titans, Tennessee Vols, Vanderbilt Commodores every now and then, Nashville SC, Nashville Predators, all things TriStar Sports, keeping you up to date with everything you want, and especially on a day like today. It's April 12th, and boy, are there some big news up on Rocky Top. We're talking all things Tennessee Titans with Cam Ward, what the Titans are going to do in the first round, what they could do at the second round, and all things you need. Tennessee baseball is playing, Nashville SC is playing tonight, and the Nashville Predators are wrapping up their season. Let's get into the biggest news of the day, what the Tennessee Volunteers are going to do at quarterback. So the news came down on Thursday night. Let's just start with the big story. Nico Iamaleava is leaving Tennessee Volunteers after Josh Heupel told Pete Thamel of ESPN that they will be moving on from Nico Iamaleava as their quarterback. So let's start with the storyline. Thursday came down that Pete Nakos of On3 Sports. Let's just plug in real quick of On3 Sports. On3 Sports is basically the best news that you can get of college football, college basketball, baseball, all things college sports. On3 has everything that you could need. They do rankings of the top athletes coming in for recruiting classes. They do rankings of, athletes in general. They also break down NIL deals, and they can kind of perform like a spot track that you could see of the NFL. On3 Sports is everything that you could need for college football, college baseball, all things college athletics in that realm. So, Pete Nakos of On3 Sports dropped a little bit of a nugget bomb on Thursday night that Nico is wanting more money. So, he came into 2022, the recruiting class. He was a 5-star recruit coming to Tennessee. He was number 2 overall in the ESPN 100 or ESPN 300 recruiting class, right behind Arch Manning, who decided to go to Texas. And basically, Nico started the kind of, I guess we could say, the way that you view NIL today. He signed a $8 million deal for 4 years, so $2 million a year. Freshman year, he redshirted and basically sat on the bench all year until the Iowa game in the Cheez-It Bowl, and that was back in 2023. So he redshirted the freshman year, played all season last year as the starter. And Thursday night, Pete Nakos dropped the nugget bomb of that he's looking for more money. $4 million a year was the reported number. So he's making right around $2 million. I think it's reported at 2.4 is the average amount that Nico is making currently. He wanted to go up to $4 million a year. And, we'll break down his stats in just a minute. So let's just talk about the story. And so Nico's dad, his name is Nick. Yes, Nico, very original. I get it. The Iamaleavas are out of Long Beach, California. And basically, Nick Iamaleava came onto Twitter and posted on social media calling out Pete Nakos and saying that, excuse my expletives, this is a podcast, so don't worry, that he called him a bitch and that, this story is false. Everything that he has said about Nico and wanting out of Tennessee or possibly enter the transfer portal and then he wanted more money, this is complete false, and they are committed to Tennessee. Well, the story be told, a day later, actually that morning, yesterday morning, Nico Iamaleava has been reported to be missing, skipping out on spring practice. The first time all spring ball that Nico has missed a practice, or at least outside of injury, that he's missed a practice and there has been no contact. Did not tell any of the coaching staff, including Josh Heupel, that of his absence. And when Josh Heupel tried to connect with him, there was none to be had. Then later last night it came out that, actually Nick Iamaleava, Nico's dad, has been shopping Nico all along. Called Dan Lanning of Oregon, called the head football coach Dan Lanning of Oregon, saying, hey, we're looking for, possibly more money. What is the options of transferring to Oregon? Now, remember, like I said, Nico is out of Long Beach, California, so a West Coast college team is not out of the possibilities there. Wouldn't it be nice for a West Coast guy to go back to the West Coast and play college football, especially if they're going to pay him? Sure, but Dan Lanning did the responsible thing. Immediately called Josh Heupel saying, "Hey, Nico's dad is shopping your guy. Your quarterback is looking for elsewhere." Spring game, the orange and white game for the Tennessee Vols is taking place currently as we speak, and Josh Heupel decided to do the right thing. Pete Thamel this morning reported that Josh Heupel has decided and told the team this morning in a meeting that they will be moving on from Nico Iamaleava. So Nico will be taking his talents elsewhere. It remains to be seen. But it also does look like, per reporting of Pete Thamel in ESPN.com, you can read his article, that Oregon's not interested. It's a bad situation, and what Nico has done to the game of college football, actually, we'll take that back. The game of college football is the game of college football. But when it comes to the contracts, the NIL, the way that we view college football, or at least college athletics, the landscape has changed. And Nico is a direct result of why it even became the way it is now. And now the fact that he's holding out of spring practice, Nico, this is not the NFL. You cannot mimic what the NFL is doing today. This is not training camp, and you want a new contract, and you're going to hold out until you get your new contract. Kudos to Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers for setting the precedent that if you're going to stand out, if you're going to act up a fool, and you want to either make more money, get out of the program, and you're going to hold out of practice, kudos to Josh Heupel and Tennessee for standing up and eliminating the threat. And the threat is that Nico is just immature. You want your leader. So when you look at a college football team, if you look at a basketball team, you want your star player, and especially in a football team, where your star player, you want to always be your quarterback. You want your quarterback to be the leader. And when your leader goes MIA and essentially goes no contact, what kind of standards does that set for your team? What kind of leadership responsibilities does that set for your team? There is no leadership outside of your head coach. What kind of example, what kind of system do you have in place when your quarterback doesn't even want to play for your team? That's what's wrong with college football these days. And Nico, sorry, bud, but you are the reason college football is, you are a good reason of why college football is the way it is today. College football, one of the big mistakes that former president of NCAA, Mark Emmert, he did not stick up for college athletics, did not stick up for the player. What college football should have done before it ever got into the NIL world, name it, image, and likeness, which we'll get to the paying of the players in just a minute. But what happened was, the reason why Mark Emmert messed up, he did not stick up for the players, and now we're in this kind of, gray area of players wanting to get paid, and there's no basis around it. Like I said, we'll get into Nico's stats in just a minute, but we're talking about just the college football landscape at the moment, and we'll get into more specifics. But back in 2022, if you had set a standard with Nico coming into Tennessee that you are signing a base contract of 2 years. Your base contract is 2 years. Yes, you can rework the contract, but it's a contract. There's no basis. Every year you can rework the NIL deal. So if you're set to make $2 million this year, and next year you feel like your performance should enhance a raise. There's no standard. There's no base. You're operating under the fact, I made $2 million last year, I deserve a $2 million raise, and if not, I'm leaving. There's no commitments for college athletics anymore. Players want their money, and they want it now, and if they don't get it, they're going to leave and find somebody who does want it, because at the end of the day, there's always a program with the transfer portal being the way it is. You get a summer window, a spring window, a winter window. Like there's so many windows to transfer that there's just no commitment these days. All you're looking at these days is okay, I can make $2 million a year at Tennessee. Wait a minute, I can make more money at Oregon, who just lost Dillon Gabriel to the NFL draft. Let me go see what they're going to offer. Well, sucks to suck, Nico, but now Oregon doesn't even want you, so that West Coast offense, the West Coast team that you're wanting, just lost a bidder. The NCAA and the NIL money, they need to find a way to fix it. There's no basis. There's no base salary. So in order to make it to the NFL, you've got to play at least 3 years in college football. Yes, there's red shirting, there's medical red shirting, there's all these kinds of ways to where you could play 1 year in college football and still make it to the NFL, but you got to be at least 3 years in a college football. Nico was technically a freshman last year, but he redshirted his first year. He sat on the bench, made $2 million. Sat on the bench, did not play a game, except for the bowl game. Okay, take that back. He did play a couple of the blowout games, but he did a little bit. But basically sat on the bench, played no real caliber important minutes, and made $2 million. Last year, of course, he starts every game, makes it to the college football playoff, he makes another $2 million. There's no basis around saying, okay, you should earn this amount of money. The quarterback in the NCAA, based on this caliber of player, should be making $3 million, let's say. No, Carson Beck goes to Miami and gets an upgrade from Georgia for $4 million. Is he worth it? No, he was worse than Nico last year. There's no basis across college football, and Mark Emmert, formerly the president of the NCAA, has really screwed the pooch on this one. There's just no basis. They need to find a common ground, find a set standard. If you're playing this position at this group of 5 school, this Power 5 school, SEC, Big Ten, whatever, there needs to be a standard to pay that player and go from there. Now, the other thing, it's different for schools. They're introducing now revenue sharing this upcoming season. So the better the program, the more money they're going to make. The better program, the more higher caliber players they can bring in the transfer portal. Now, as far as name, image, and likeness goes, I'm all for paying the players. The players are, they're out there in the public. You've got college football like EA Sports and or whatever it is, the playing college football in video game. Like, I'm not much of a gamer, but you can go on there and play college football. To be able to put your name on the back of your jersey is very important for these college athletes. I'm a former college athlete. I played soccer in college. Now, no, I did not play Division I or anything like that. I played for Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. It's a Division II program. Not that I'm here to brag or anything like that, but to be able to put your name on a back in an animated video game is very important to these players. To be able to put your face in front of a camera on a Wheaties cereal box, that's very important for these players. They should get paid because of what they're doing to these programs. A Power 5 school and the magnitude of what that means in college football for that program, for that person, it's very important, and they should get compensated for that. Now, for Nico, let's get into the specifics. Nico was he was barely a top 10 quarterback in the SEC last year, and you're saying he wants $4 million. Not to mention that I already said he made $2 million his freshman year just sitting on the bench and not playing important minutes until the bowl game against Iowa, in which they routed Iowa. Now, of course, a lot was to him, and there was a lot of hype going into year 2. But Nico, 213 completions on 334 attempts. His completion percentage was 63.8%. That completion percentage was barely top 10 in terms of starters. In terms of yardage, number 8. Okay? Nico threw 2,616 yards. The top was Jackson Dart of Ole Miss, 4,279. He's a potential first-round draft pick this year. You're throwing almost 2,000 yards less than him in as many games. Nico's average, 7.8 yards per average. His longest pass was 86 yards. Yes, it went for a touchdown. He threw 19 touchdowns. Again, that's number 7 in the SEC, behind Quinn Ewers, who was number 1 with 31. Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, 29. Jackson Dart, 29. Carson Beck, 28. Peyton Thorne of Auburn, who didn't even play the whole season, 21. Diego Pavia, who people say probably will never make an NFL roster, but yet he's coming back for another season for Vanderbilt. And then you get to Nico at 19. He threw 5 interceptions and took 28 sacks. Nico was not a top quarterback in the SEC last year. Now, according to On3 Sports of Ari Wassinger and Andy Staples, Nico was not even supposed to be a top 10 quarterback in college football this upcoming season, and yet he wanted almost a $2 million upgrade in pay. I could see that if you wanted $1 million more, okay, Tennessee's a high caliber program. You're asking a lot of Nico. You want him to be the savior of your program and bring it to heights that it hasn't been since 1998. But yet you're going to throw stats at me like 2,616 yards and 19 touchdowns. You're barely scraping elite there. You're not even scraping elite there. You're scraping mid-tier quarterback there. And of course, over the course of the entire NCAA football, you're nowhere near the top 10, Nico. What are you like? I guess that's what I don't understand is why you're asking for so much when you are putting mid-tier quarterback on the football field. That's what's insane to me. And of course, you got the fact that your dad, Nick, is probably driving, the bulk of this saga. And it is a saga because it's very dramatic and it's very overplayed. And it really, honestly, if Nico was a man, okay, we're going to question his manhood for a minute, and probably shouldn't be doing that. Excuse me, but we are going to anyways. You're at least 18 years of age. You can call your own shots. But in a household where your dad is calling the points like that and wanting more money when you don't deserve it, you can fight back, and you can't just sit there and say, Dad, I think you're right. I could use some more money. You've got enough money. You can buy almost anything that you could imagine at the age of 20. Okay. So we're going into, college quarterback stats last season. You have to go all the way to 57 till you get Nico in terms of yardage. And it's even worse when you get into touchdowns. When you get to touchdowns, you're looking at 42nd across Division I NCAA football. Number 1, Titans fans, you're going to love this. Cam Ward was number 1 last year with 39 tutties, 305 completions, 454 attempts, 4,313 yards, an average of 9.5 yards per completion. 39 tutties, 7 interceptions, and number 2, Shedeur Sanders of Colorado. So that's one of the reasons why, the top 2 quarterbacks in this NFL draft are who they are. We'll talk about Cam Ward in just a minute. Okay, when it comes to yardage in the league, Kyle McCord of Syracuse, 4,779 yards. Over 2,000 yards in the season more than Nico Iamaleava. But yet, yes, of course, he's going into the NFL draft. But these quarterbacks didn't make $4 million a year. You're asking $4 million a year to play mid-tier quarterback play. And here's what I think what should happen. We'll talk about this as I'm looking up NIL deals across college football. And what I think the NCAA and college football teams should start to do, and I'm not saying the question begs of should college football go or should college athletic go into contracts and kind of simulate what the NFL does on a yearly basis and getting contracts. Do they 1 to 2 year contract, a 4-year contract, a 4-year deal with an out after year 2, a 2-year deal with an out after year 1. Because in the NFL, at the end of the day, when you have a 2-year contract, it's really a 1-year contract. You can keep the second year if you want to. A 4-year deal can be a 2 or 3-year deal, and obviously can stay a 4-year if you want to. But there's always outs. But when it comes to college football, you can rework that NIL deal at any point after the season. What I think college football mainly, but of course college athletics, because this is NCAA as a whole, what they should be focused on is maybe not doing so much of a contract, but having a base salary. Okay, let's just take Nico, for instance. Okay, he signed on for $8 million. Okay, this year he's going to be $2.4 million, wanted to go to $4 million. Well, how about this? Let's find a way to get to $4 million without actually paying you the full million. Okay? Incentive-based pay. What is wrong, like what the NFL does? Joe Flacco just signed signed a new deal with the Cleveland Browns to return to there, and I can't remember exactly what he was supposed to make, but he signed a deal that was worth a certain amount and then up to another amount. So he signed a 1-year, $4 million deal, and it's up to, that doesn't say, but he signed a $1 year, $4 million deal that's worth up to $13 million with incentives. That's what Joe Flacco signed on to. Why not give Nico the $2 million deal and get up to $4 million with incentives? Find a way to say, okay, you're going to throw 30 touchdowns, here's some money. You're going to throw 3,000 yards, here's some money. 3,500, 4,000 yards, here's some money. You make it into the SEC championship game, here's some money. You make it into the college football playoff, here's the money. National championship, money. Winning the national championship, money. Heisman Trophy, money. Let's find a way to get these players to stay committed to their team. This college athletics, it used to be where you go to a school and you go to the traditions and the history and you play for that club because of what it meant to you. And then you rally behind that. Josh Dobbs, formerly of Tennessee Vols, a now career backup veteran in the NFL, he had his golf classic in Knoxville the other day, and he made a really good comment that he was told it's not just about playing 4 years at Tennessee football, because that's not what you're signing up to play. You're signing up to be a Tennessee Vol for the 40 years. It's not just 4 years, it's 40 years. That's what it means to be in college. Not just the Tennessee Vols. It doesn't matter what program you are. You're not signing up for the moment. You're signing up for the eternity of what the school means to you, the alumni. So in the case of Tennessee Vols, you're called a VFL, a volunteer for life. And that's what you sign up to be. Working for 104.5 The Zone on Ramon, Kalen, Will, and of course all the others programs with Buck Rising and 3HL, Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach. Most of them are, or at least have gone to University of Tennessee, and they've graduated from the program. Everything that they say, everything is attached to it. Tennessee Legend or Tennessee Volunteer, VFL, and that's what it means. It's the camaraderie. It's the alumni. It's the history. It's the tradition. That's what you sign up to be. Nowadays, it's about the money. I don't care who I play for. I want the money. If you don't give it to me, I move on. Sorry, Nico. We're moving on. And just like Josh Heupel said today on Vol Network, ahead of Tennessee's orange and white game, he wanted to make sure that nobody is bigger than the program, and that includes him, he said. We're moving on, and we have to move on. And of course, what happens when you move on? You've got to find a new quarterback. You've got second-year guy, Jake Merklinger, and you got true freshman out of Brentwood Academy in George McIntyre. You're telling me that the Tennessee Vols are going to go into the season with one of those two guys? I guarantee you they're looking at the spring portal window and finding a new guy. Now, it's important to remember, if you're an SEC player, you cannot transfer with SEC to SEC in the spring portal window. That is a rule been set forth from Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. So if you're looking for any kind of transfer to Tennessee, it's got to be outside of the SEC. And my guess is that Tennessee, now with the opening, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks across the landscape of college football that find Tennessee as an attractive landing spot, and that they're going to want to do, or they already have. It's been reported by Andy Staples of On3 Sports and Pete Nakos of On3 Sports that they are doing their due diligence to find the next quarterback for the Tennessee Volunteers in the spring transfer portal window. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of teams that say, oh, Tennessee's available. Let's go hop on that train. Let's go into the portal. Let's see if Tennessee wants to bring me on and see what kind of deal they have. Now they're saving $2.4 million by not paying Nico, so they have more money to spend. Do they find a cheaper quarterback? Do they stick with Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre and put that money, maybe some wide receiver help? They lost Dante Thornton. They lost, who else did they lose? Squirrel White. They lost, I don't know why I can't think of the names, but Brew McCoy is his name. They lost all these guys, and they need to find and they need to recomp that, the roster spots. Now they have the money to do it. That's the option. So that's the big news of the day for the Tennessee Vols. Let's hop across the mid-state and go downtown Nashville for the Tennessee Titans, where number 1 pick is all but locked. Cam Ward seems to be just anything but. I mean, you tell me. If Cam Ward is not the number 1 overall pick, you tell me why. The Tennessee Titans, they went and visited Shedeur Sanders at Colorado's Pro Day last Friday. And they left the Pro Day by meeting with Shedeur Sanders and his camp saying, let's just cancel our private workout. They did have a private workout in Miami with Cam Ward after his Pro Day, but they canceled Shedeur Sanders. They said that they had already seen enough on tape. They liked the meetings they had with him. They liked the tape, and they're confident with where they stand on Sanders. That's all but saying that Cam Ward is pick number 1 overall in this year's draft coming up on April 24th. Now, here's the caveat to it. I've said all along the Titans do not need a quarterback at number 1. Yes, they don't have a quarterback. They have Will Levis, they have Brendan Allen, and they have Tim Boyd. But tell me why, in 2025, the Tennessee Titans absolutely need a quarterback, unless you're on the boat that the Titans can't operate without an elite quarterback. Okay, you tell me that you can't operate without an elite quarterback. Tell me who the elite quarterback is. Are you saying Cam Ward is that elite quarterback? I just gave you some stats for him. I just told you that he was number 1 in college football in touchdowns. I told you that he threw for over 4,300 yards. He threw for 7 interceptions. Not bad at all. He is not the best at taking care of the football. He's had over 50 turnovers in his college football career. He has put the ball on the ground at least 50 times in his college football career. Not all of them were turnovers. Some were, recouped fumbles that he covered himself. But Cam Ward has the most talent in this year's draft. But is he the talent that you need at the moment? If you go over the course of the roster, who do the Titans need? Well, I don't have enough fingers on my hands for that. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, backup offensive lineman. You could use a depth at running back position. You need edge rushers. You need defensive tackles, defensive linemen. You need linebackers. You need cornerbacks, safety, slot corner, slot receivers. There is too many holes on this roster that you can't tell me that you're fine with. You're not happy with going into the season without the quarterback. You can't be happy with going into the season with the current wide receiver room, the tight end room, the depth that you don't have in the offensive line, the depth that you don't have rushing the quarterback, the defensive line, the linebacker, the cornerbacks, the safeties. There is not one position on this team that you can be happy with and satisfied with that you have going into this season. So here's what you do. You have one of two options. You draft Cam Ward, or you go elsewhere. And with that, there's multiple options. You can trade back if there's a trade partner. Like I told you last week, Coach Mack of Titans Radio, when I called him for our weekly segment on Thursday mornings at 7:20 on 104.5 The Zone, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, that I asked him, what side of the camp are you about the Titans with the number 1 overall pick? I told him personally that I wanted to trade back, but he emphatically reminded me, in order to trade back, you have to have a trade partner. I don't know why that sticks so much because it's such an obvious answer. But at the end of the day, you can want so much. You can want 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick, or whatever it is that the Titans have been reported to be asking for. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a trade partner, if you don't have anybody answering the phone, or, even just thinking the offer's enticing, you're picking at number 1. It doesn't matter. Unless you take that offer and you turn it down a notch. Maybe those 3 first-round picks that you're asking for turn into 2 first-rounders. So if you're the Giants, if you're the Jets, the Raiders, the Saints, who now seem like they may need a quarterback because Derek Carr might be missing the 2025-26 season because his shoulder is still messed up and might need surgery to repair. What are the Saints' options at quarterback? Spencer Rattler is their only option at the moment. Do you now have a trade partner, suitor, to trade from number 1 to number 9 with the Saints? Because the Saints need a quarterback and maybe they like Cam Ward? Or are they confident that Shedeur Sanders may fall to them at number 9? If you're at number 9, knowing the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, they all may potentially be in that quarterback market, how can you be so confident that you're going to get Shedeur Sanders at number 9? You're not. So there may be a trade suitor. Now, of course, the further that you fall back, the higher that trade offer comes. But you always have to remember, nothing happens unless you have a trade partner. So let's operate under the fact that we do not have a trade offer because at the current moment on April 12th, under 2 weeks before the draft, there is no trade partner. There have been talks, but there is nothing being concrete. The Titans have 2 options at the draft. Take the quarterback. Take Cam Ward, number 1 overall, who has been compared to Steve McNair, whom that might be a little bit of an unfair comparison, but a lot of people over at ESPN, and of course college football analysts, NFL analysts, draft analysts, scouting, a lot of people have compared Cam Ward to Steve McNair. The body size is very comparable. Steve McNair was a bit taller. Cam Ward sitting right around the 6'1" to 6'2" mark, and Steve McNair is hovering a little bit taller. I think he was near the 6'5" mark. The weight's around the same. The arm strength's around the same. The playmaking ability, escaping the pockets around the same. The ability to stand up, kind of having that Ben Roethlisberger capability of you can't just be tackled on the first time when escaping the pocket. Keeping the eyes downfield, making the, maybe the sidearm throws, doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Those things are comparable. But is that an unfair comparison to Titans fans who the franchise's probably best quarterback they've ever had, at least tenured, because Ryan Tannehill has a stake for that, making the AFC Championship game, but with Eddie George, Steve McNair, Kevin Dyson, and the works, Javon Kearse, they made the Super Bowl. And we don't need to go there because that still hurts in a lot of people's minds. What do you need most? And that's the question that the Titans have to answer. Is the quarterback the one that you want? The stats are there in college football. He was good everywhere he went. Washington State, Incarnate Word. There's a reason why he kept progressing, kept improving, and eventually went from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami. Now, there's also been some reports that it was between Miami and Ohio State. Imagine Cam Ward last year on Ohio State and playing for a national championship. What would have been the talks amongst Titans fans, the NCAA college football, the Heisman Trophy, and draft analysts? What would be the conversation if Cam Ward was playing for a national championship and had the same stats he did? Top 2 in terms of yards, top 2 or the number 1 in terms of touchdowns, throwing to a Jeremiah Smith. The talks were, it's a no-brainer at number 1. He'd probably be compared to Joe Burrow in 2019, one of the best college football seasons a team could ever have, led by one of the best college football prospects the NFL has seen in such a long time, probably since Andrew Luck. But here we are talking about Cam Ward being at Miami, not having the best season. Miami lost some key games to Georgia Tech, barely won against Virginia Tech in overtime. Didn't even make the college football playoff, didn't make the ACC championship game. A lot of questions revolved around Miami. His stats are there. They lost 2 games, and those 2 games came late in the season to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Syracuse was the deciding factor to not making the ACC championship game and ultimately took them out of the college football playoff race. Lost to Georgia Tech in what was a terrible, terrible loss. 28-23 doesn't sound so bad, but Miami didn't have much of a defense. They had a good offense, not much of a defense. Lost 42-38 against Syracuse. The offense is there again, but it's the defense. And then lost against Ohio State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, 42-41. Cam Ward played about a half, showcased his skills, hopped on out of there, said, I'm on to the NFL draft. See ya. I think Cam Ward will be a solid NFL quarterback. He needs some development. He needs some time to, learn the Titans offense or whatever NFL offense he's going to be operating in about getting rid of the football, not holding on to the football. He's made some mistakes similar to what Will Levis has done in his collegiate career. The Titans and Brian Callahan need to develop that. Give him some time. And one thing Titans fans are going to have to remember, a rookie's going to be a rookie. There's going to be some mistakes, but it's how you protect him. And the Titans have done a really good, solid job of finding the offensive linemen to protect him, going out and getting Dan Moore from Pittsburgh, going out and get Kevin Zeitler, going out and, being able to move J.C. Latham from left tackle to his more natural position to right tackle. The Titans have done a better job. But then it comes to who are you going to throw the ball to? And that's who I think, when it comes to deciding what you're going to do in the draft. You have 2 options, in my opinion, at number 1 overall. You draft Cam Ward, or maybe you go draft Abdul Carter out of Penn State. You need somebody who's going to get after the quarterback, and currently, after the departure of Harold Landry, you got Draymond Jones from Seattle. You got, what's his name, from Atlanta. Getting after the quarterback's not there. You got Devondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons in the middle. They're not going to get you, double-digit sacks. You don't have that kind of guy. Abdul Carter is that guy. If you find a trade partner, that's one thing. But I think you have 2 options. It's Abdul Carter, number 1. Matt Miller of ESPN says what would really be a shocker is going out and getting your Abdul Carter at number 1, helping to solidify that defense. But here's probably what I would do. I'm fine with taking Cam Ward at number 1 overall. Not saying you have to. I will always admit and say and be honest that you do not have to take the quarterback. There's always next year. There's fine ways to improve this team. But this team needs what this team needs. And a quarterback and edge rusher are the top of those needs. But if you get the quarterback at number 1, your second-round draft pick has got to be, in my opinion, a wide receiver. Calvin Ridley is your only receiver at the moment. You've got Bryce Oliver. You've got Van Jefferson. No Nick Westbrook-Akine. You've got Treylon Burks, maybe, when he recovers from his ACL tear. The Tennessee Titans are very thin at the wide receiver position. You need an X-receiver. You need Titans fans, you need an A.J. Brown to pair with Calvin Ridley. The one thing that you've got to love about college football these days is the 7-on-7 drills that you do in high school that are basically designed for cornerback play and wide receiver play, the one-on-one battles. The better that these players adapt, improve, upgrade their play, finding better play style, and just improving their technique, the better these drafts will get and the deeper these drafts will get, and you're seeing it now of 7-on-7 with these wide receivers and cornerbacks. Hence, why the Titans should be absolutely all in on getting a wide receiver with a 35th overall pick in the second round. Now, of course, you can go into the mock drafts, and maybe that's what we'll do next week, the week before the draft, is we go through some mock drafts. Currently, the Titans have been selecting a Luther Burden at pick number 35, Emeka Egbuka if he falls to the second round. The Titans have done their due diligence with bringing in second, third, and fourth round guys for their 30 visits. Kyle Williams, Washington State, formerly played with Cam Ward in 2022 and 2023. The familiarity is there. Xavier Restrepo, the familiarity is there from Miami. Finding these guys with familiarity, they've got good solid tape in college football, and going to get the dog, going to get the guy that's going to be solid on the opposite side of Calvin Ridley. I think it's pretty well common knowledge that, Travis Hunter's going to be a top 5 pick. Teteroa McMillan's going to be potentially top 10, top 15 pick. And after that, it's going to be a lot of defensive linemen, offensive linemen, cornerbacks, some linebackers, Jackson Dart. There's going to be all over, the field positions that are going to be taken in the first round, and I think you can easily find a solid wide receiver with pick number 35. And that's where you've got to go. I think the top 2 picks currently that you're looking at is Luther Burden, Emeka Ibuka, in the works. I think that's what you got to look at. You've got to find a receiver to grow and to pair and to find that chemistry with your new quarterback, and if that's Cam Ward. And we'll look up some more receiver prospects because I think that's just what it is. So you've got Ted McMillan, who's going to go top 15. Luther Burden and Emeka Ibuka are going to be at the top of the first round. I have a hard time seeing that they're going to last that far into the second round, but you got a Matthew Golden who's driving up their draft board rankings. He's probably going to be a top 20 pick. And then you get into the second round talent of Iowa State's Jaden Higgins, maybe a third round talent in Jack Besh out of TCU. And then you've got Kyle Williams of Washington State's probably a third, fourth round guy. The Titans don't currently have a third round pick because of the L'Jarius Sneed trade, who just in, if you don't know, is getting sued from a Texas man by potential shooting in Texas. So that's something. The Chiefs are looking like they struck gold by trading him away to the Titans. Then you've got Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, who had a really solid season last year. I think that, when it comes to Ole Miss wide receivers, they produce a good X receiver like an A.J. Brown, like a D.K. Metcalf, who was just traded to, if you weren't aware, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's what you're going to be looking at. And, there's a lot of good players in this draft, and the Titans have got to do their due diligence in finding all players of all positions. Defense, offense, it doesn't matter. I think it's got to be an even-keel draft. So, we'll talk more about that next week. Maybe go into some mock drafts if there's any more Nico Iamaleava moves or news to be made, if there's quarterback news that the Vols are getting into because the spring portal window is about to open. I'm going to find out an exact date on that. And, any other news for football for the Vols. Tennessee baseball is a top 5 team this year. They did just, they kind of were sliding. They've got a series this weekend against Ole Miss. And, they're up there. The Nashville Soccer Club plays tonight. They are doing very well in soccer. And I don't know why I can't find their schedule. But Nashville is coming off 3 wins in the last 4. The Nashville Predators are nearing their season's end. They got, 3 more games left. They're in Vegas tonight, and they have 2 home games left. So Nashville SC, they did lose to Charlotte last Saturday, but they lost the last 2. They lost to Cincinnati and they lost to Charlotte. But before that, they beat Montreal 3-0. They beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia, which is an accomplishment they have never done before. They never even scored a goal in Philadelphia until a few weeks ago, and they scored 3 in the win, beat Portland 2-0. Tonight they're playing Real Salt Lake in Nashville. First kick is at 7:30 on 104.5 The Zone. You can hear it. One thing that drives me nuts is hockey and the MLS. You can't watch them on TV unless you subscribe to Apple or you got the FanDuel Sports TV, formerly Valley Sports. If you don't have those, you don't have a top cable network, you can't watch these games. And that's what really pisses me off because there's a lot of good quality sports in Nashville that you have to miss out on. Hani Mukhtar's rounding into form. Sam Surridge and the Nashville SC offense is really rounding into form. Walker Zimmerman last week against Charlotte took a really hard tumble to the ground. And, it was a head-to-head contact. He was going up for a header on a corner, nailed the defender, the opposing defender in the head, and went down hard, went to the hospital, was able to be cleared, and was able to travel home with the team. They are going to be missing him for at least a couple games while he is in concussion protocol. But tonight against Real Salt Lake at 7:30. And in the NHL, like I said, the Nashville Predators have just 3 games remaining. Their playoffs, they're done for. But what's nice to know at least is their AHL team that they display on ice any given night, even though they're led by Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly. The top players are doing what they need to do. They're scoring goals. Philip Forsberg had the game winner in a shootout against Utah Hockey Club on Thursday night, winning 4-3. In a absolute barn burner, 7-6, Nashville Predators score a touchdown against the New York Islanders in Nashville. 7-6 was the winner. Absolutely nuts in overtime. And you've got to like it from the rookie Fedor Svechkov, who got the game winner against the Islanders. The Predators, after having a 6-game win streak, kind of found the way there. But like I said, they have just a few games remaining. They're in Vegas tonight, and then they finish off the season 2 home games against the Utah Hockey Club, and then in Dallas against the Stars. Both of those games will be at home. And then, if you're just looking at overall rankings, when it comes to the standings, the Predators are the bottom 3 of the league. They have 66 points. They are eliminated from playoff contention. So any game that they win or all they're doing is hurting their chances at a lottery pick. Chicago Blackhawks have 56 points. San Jose Sharks are 51. Those are your bottom. The Preds right now are playing for next season, recoup the losses, figure out what went wrong, get better. You're probably going to have to get rid of Andrew Burnett. As much as he looked really good as a head coach, had his time in New Jersey, came to Nashville, had a really seemed like a decent start, and, General Manager Barry Trotz goes out and spends a bag with Brady Shea, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, spends all this money, and all it does is produce you 66 points in an early playoff elimination. You've got to look to next year. You've got these deals in place. You can't get rid of them, but you still have some money left over for next season. We'll break that down as the postseason begins. But right now, all you need to do is focus on getting the lottery, and I have to look into it and do some more research, but I don't believe that there's much to really look forward to in this draft. One thing that's important to note of Nashville sports, whether it be the Tennessee Titans, whether it be the Nashville Predators or Nashville SC, when they're bad at the wrong time. The pursuing draft after the fact is almost 9 times out of 10 not the draft that they want to be there for. When the Titans were bad, back in, 2008 or 2006 or something like that, and they went to go get Jake Locker. Bad drafts. They're bad this year. Cam Ward is the best quarterback, and he's not even fully viewed as a first-round talent, nor is Shedeur Sanders. The Titans just don't get consistently lucky with good drafts. 2015, they drafted Marcus Mariota. Not the strongest draft class with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. Jameis Winston was the top quarterback coming out, went number 1 overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had a really good college career, won the national championship. Didn't pan out. Or no, I'm sorry, they didn't win. Yeah, they did. They beat Auburn. So, Titans Preds, they're just bad luck. We'll talk about more of that in the coming times. But for now, really do appreciate every week anybody who listens to this. This is just a way for me to talk about sports, the game of football, the game of hockey, soccer, in which I played. Talking about sports is the thing that I love to do. I'm very honored and blessed to be able to do it on 104.5 The Zone. I am the producer of Ramon Kalen Will on 104.5 The Zone, weekday morning, 6 to 10 a.m. Very blessed to do what I do. And for anybody who has a chance to listen and appreciate this, please like and subscribe to the show. More and more content as the coming days happens. Do appreciate it. Much love. And there will be more content to follow. And as always, this has been TriStar Sports Podcast. I'm Justin Hawkins, talking all things TriStar Sports: Tennessee Titans, Tennessee Vols, Vanderbilt Commodores, Nashville Predators, Nashville SC, anything TriStar related. If I don't talk about it, please let me know. We'll talk about it next time. And as always, peace out. God bless.